Today being Monday, August 29th, the National Energy Board was to commence hearings today in Montreal on the proposed TransCanada pipeline. The Mohawk councils of Kahnawà, Akwesásne and Kanehsatá were to present. However, the whole affair was cancelled due to a protest in the morning. So the chiefs decided that they still had a message to get out. They held a press conference at the offices of James O'Reilly and Associates, and KTV was there.
We've been targeted, if you will, to have a pipeline put in. It is our duty and our responsibility to ensure that we remind the public in general, not just the politicians, not just the special interests groups such as NEB, whom we don't have very much faith in terms of the responsibility they've been given on behalf of the government of Canada to go about their business and try to convince people, that this is the right thing to do. In any event, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we have our voice heard in terms of being responsible for the land, Mohawk Nation territory, being responsible for ensuring the health and safety of our peoples, and in conjunction with that, I guess anyone else that lives within that respective territory, meaning non-native people, we include. So it's our duty and our responsibility, as I mentioned, to be prepared to stand up and make our thoughts known. The position that we hold is not necessarily talking to the NEB, because we don't have any faith in that structure that's put there. It was more that we know that the hearing process was going to be live streamed to the public in general, and that was our target. That was our intention, not the NEB. Their minds are set. They know what they want.
Part of the point of what we wanted to raise at the Energy Board hearings today was the fact that the core issues of the First Nations, of the Indigenous nations, must be dealt with directly by the government and not through the National Energy Board process. And we don't have a commitment on that yet from the Trudeau government yet. So we're still waiting to see what additional measures concretely they intend to implement. The purpose of the hearings today was for interveners to express their high-level issues with the project and the hearing process. So obviously, Kahnawà was prepared to make legal arguments as to the scope of the Energy East review process as planned by the National Energy Board and Canada, and to provide arguments as to why direct engagement and consultation with the Crown, with Canada, was required, as opposed to simply relying on the Energy Board process. So we definitely had intended to bring those legal arguments to the forefront today, but today isn't the only opportunity that we would have had to make those arguments, and we definitely intend to maintain that position with respect to Canada as the process continues.
We're definitely going to bring up the major failures with the NEB process. There's a few things that there's just no room for in the NEB process, whether it's the rights, the constitutional rights, Aboriginal rights, title and treaty rights of the Mohawk. There's no room for that in the NEB process. The NEB isn't equipped to speak to those kind of issues. Same thing with climate change. You're not even allowed to mention climate change, which is a major threat to First Nations, of course. So the NEB was going to speak to the issue of, whether this project is in the public interest of Canada, and yet they're not even allowed to factor in Mohawk rights, Mohawk sovereignty, and they're not allowed to factor in climate change. So it's definitely, it's like the Mohawks have been saying Mohawks of Kanehsatá have been saying for a long time, it's a completely illegitimate process. And of course, the other thing you can't bring up was the Château affair, and we would have, of course, spoken about, the Château scandal and the fact that, it is a scandal, but it's not new. It's not a surprise in the sense that, the Mohawks of Kanehsatá have been saying from the beginning that this process is illegitimate, not credible, and now we just have further proof of that fact. So
it shows you what a circus this whole process has been, and I was going to boycott it altogether, but my legal counsel said, you know what, you're better off sticking to the process. Let's go through this exercise, and anyway, it's better than just boycotting. I don't know. We still got to work on the finer details on when it comes to consultation. What kind of consultation are we looking at? And what would we consider as a legitimate seeking of our opinions? And the Crown has to understand that sometimes the answer might be no. I mean, it's our land. We have every right to say yes or no if a project is going to go through. So until we see a process like that, I think we're going to remain at a stalemate.
Basically, you have to have joint ownership of the process. We don't have that right now. It's one-sided and one-sided only. That's why there's a reluctance. And I've been very reluctant in participating. I've stood back and I've said, no, because we're going to be drawn into a process in which when you stand in front of the cameras as today, you're asked the kind of questions that makes it very difficult to answer because it's somebody else's rules. It's not ours. So I just wanted to make it clear that, if we're going to start off on the right foot with a new government in resource development, resource sharing, and all of that, then the rules have to be very clear on both sides. We have to agree.
This issue before the National Energy Board is one that brings into focus the rights of the Mohawk Nation as a whole, and it's great to see the three communities together. First of all, it's their land. There's never been any treaty signed with the Mohawks insofar as their territorial rights are concerned over all of southern Quebec. So this is Mohawk land as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, the NEB owes a very special duty of, at the very least, consultation and accommodation, because it's clear that they have prima facie rights to the land, and that any project, any development must have at the very least a consultation process which takes into account prior and informed consent of the Mohawk Nation. So I believe that this is just the very start of a very strong opposition by the Mohawks unless and until they come and deal satisfactorily with what's the fundamental issue, which is that this is Mohawk land.